heart of the Renaissance, an unsettling transformation began to stir within Europe, reshaping the spiritual landscape and sowing seeds of racism that would echo through centuries. This period marked a pivotal chapter where religion intertwined with the darkest aspects of human prejudice, leading to doctrines that justified acts of cruelty under the guise of divine decree. Today, we explore the origins of modern racism links to Christianity, particularly within Catholicism, and how these interpretations of faith laid groundwork for systemic inequality around the globe. The portrayal of religious figures underwent a transformation, mirroring Europe's shifting ideologies. Europeans moved away from the ancient Roman perceptions of race and North African images of Christian patriarchs. Images of the Holy Mother and the Sacred Son, once depicted with dark skin, reflecting the North African and Middle Eastern roots of Christianity, gradually lightened to conform to the new Eurocentric views. Famous artists like Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper to Michelangelo's Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel were produced during this period, reflecting the whitewashing of these spiritual characters. This whitewashing served not only as an artistic choice, but as a symbolic assertion of racial superiority propaganda integrated into Christian and European ideals. Pope Nicholas V, in a monumental act in 1455, issued the papal bull Dum Diversas, granting Portugal the right to conquer non-Christian lands and enslave indigenous populations. Pope Nicholas V charged Alfonso of Portugal with the Christian duty to enslave any non-Christian. The Pope's act would be the first recorded international edict to literally grant a Christian nation the right to promote, enforce, and heavily profit from slave trading. Decades later, Pope Alexander VI beckoned Christian monarchs to conquer native populations in the name of the Catholic Church, upholding his predecessor's tradition to enslave non-Christians in whatever lands they called home. In 1548, Pope Paul III used his apostolic authority to declare the slave trade legal in the eyes of the Church, which empowered the religious monarchies in European nations to continue to engage in transatlantic trafficking. The popes and their friends accepted gifts of enslaved melanated people shipped from Africa to Rome. These decrees not only sanctioned slavery, but also branded it a Christian duty to subjugate dark indigenous peoples, laying a theological groundwork for centuries of exploitation and the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery refers to a principle in public international law under which, when a nation discovers land, it directly acquires rights on that land. The indigenous peoples of the lands touched by European colonization, from the shores of Africa to the Americas, bore complexions darker than the Europeans. This physical difference became a marker of otherness, a justification used to classify them as lesser beings in a skewed moral hierarchy. They were labeled as Indian, colored, and Negro by the Church and considered 3/5 of a human. Slavery, sanctioned by papal decree, evolved into a robust system of racial discrimination. What began as a mechanism for economic gain, underpinned by a distorted interpretation of Scripture, transformed into systemic racism, a belief in the inherent superiority of one race over another. With the expulsion of Moors and Jews from Spain in 1492, the need to eradicate all non-Christians and people of darker complexion out of Europe increased rapidly. This created the New World Order, which launched the conquering and transformation of the world. The legacy of those early decrees and actions is profound. By embedding racial hierarchies within the Christian doctrine, the Catholic Church of the time played the primary role in normalizing and perpetuating racism. These beliefs seeped into social structures, law, and even education, molding attitudes that persist in various forms today. If we are to understand the true nature of racism, then we must look at its spiritual and historical origins to see the deep-rooted system as it truly is.